Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Godzilla, King of the Monsters, starring Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, Millie Bobby Brown, Bradley Whitford, Sally Hawkins, Charles Dance, Thomas Middleditch, Aisha Hines, O'Shea Jackson Jr., David Strathairn, Ken Watanabe, and Z.E. Zhang, and directed by Michael Dougherty. And before I get into this review, I did remember seeing this on IMAX the day it came out in theaters at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles. And I really enjoyed that experience a lot because you felt the monster sounding and the effects and the roars and all that. Will it be the same reaction as this in this review? Well, let's give it a look. We pick up during the final action scene, actually in Boston, where Dr. Mark Russell, played by Kyle Chandler, and Dr. Emma Russell, played by Vera Farmiga, and their daughter Madison Russell, played by Millie Bobby Brown, and looking at for a dead kid of their own named Andrew, and Maddie is estranged from her father as he emails her while making breakfast for her mother Emma, and the earth shakes as there is a creature in China that's not Godzilla, who hasn't been seen in the last 5 years, but Mothra, who is one of the giant monsters in the original movies, and is a female encountered by Emma, who tries to calm it down. And Maddie comes in as Mothra finds Emma to be the alpha, and lets Maddie briefly touch it until the movie's bad guy, named Alan Jonah, played by Charles Dance, kidnaps Emma and Maddie. Meanwhile, Dr. Ishiro Shirazawa, returned by Ken Watanabe, and his assistant, Dr. Vivian Graham, returned by Sally Hawkins, convinces how these monsters are the great titans and make the humans Godzilla's pets. And we move on to Mark taking pictures of wolves during their feasting until Dr. Shirazawa and Dr. Graham, with their assistant Sam Coleman, played by Thomas Middleditch, comes to Mark for help to go after Emma and Maddie. And these characters are not very good in this movie. And they didn't matter as this is supposed to be a Godzilla movie. Why the hell am I talking about characters? Because they're so unlikable and make questionable choices that I don't care whether they live or die by the end of the day. And the director, Michael Dougherty, he's really bad at making me like the characters, just like he did in that god awful monster Christmas movie I'm going to have to review it this season called Krampus. And I'm not looking forward to that, as I'm not looking forward to seeing any more of his work. Mark goes to Dr. Shirazawa and Dr. Graham and Sam to the Monarch as we get introductions of Colonel Diane Foster, played by Aisha Hines, and Chief Warrant Officer Barnes, played by Ice Cube's son O'Shea Jackson Jr., who portrayed his father in Straight Outta Compton, and Eileen Chen, played by Z.E. Zhang. And again, I don't like these characters, and they don't matter. Emma and Maddie are introduced to Alan, asks Emma to do some work for him as the Monarch arrives to stop Alan, and there's a heartbeat of Godzilla as he shows up in the first 30 minutes of this movie, which was less time than the first Godzilla from the universe, and hopefully there's more of him for the rest of the movie, which is why I'm here, as well as Godzilla vs. Kong. We'll get there. The Monarch goes after Alan and Emma, with Emma and Maddie, as Mark sees them on the monitors and goes in after them and points the gun at Alan, and Maddie decides to go with Emma, and I thought, what the hell are you doing? As Emma blows up and gets Ghidorah, a 3-headed dragon, born, as she tells Mark, telling to run. But what was the script thinking? I mean, my God. Out of any of the bad characters, I think the worst character is Emma, because she has so many bad, questionable decisions. I swear to God, she really does. And I almost wanted to shout at my TV at this point, because this is Vera Farmiga's worst performance of any movie, including any of the Conjuring films she's in. Alan, I get the impression, wants to put an end to the Monarch, as well as destroying Godzilla. I couldn't tell you what his story was, and it doesn't matter, as Godzilla shows up with when Ghidorah arrives, and Maddie distracts Ghidorah in killing innocent lives from killing innocent lives, I should say. And Godzilla fights Ghidorah, and I like the sound effects of the monster action, and the monster action is the kick-ass time to be at the movies, as they're the best thing about this movie, and that's what I want: more Godzilla versus another creature and less human melodrama. That fixed it. And this movie sort of improves on that as I like the monster action scenes. They were pretty damn cool, much more than the human melodrama. Mark wakes up in a hospital bed and finds out Emma is doing a bad thing by releasing Mothra, Ghidorah, or as they call it, Project Zero. And Godzilla follows Emma's trace to South America, and Emma calls the monarch and tells them she's saving the world by releasing the monsters, which doesn't make any sense, as she says the humans are an infection, and that also doesn't make any sense. Like, none of what she's saying doesn't make any damn sense, and that's the real problem. And why I said Emma's the worst character in any Godzilla movie, and Maddie begins to think her mother is a monster herself, while people are evacuating South America, while Ghidorah arrives there with Rodan, who, like Mothra, is a flying monster and blows up the military, and Ghidorah fights Rodan, at which Ghidorah wins. And I do like the monster action more than the human melodrama in this movie. That's kind of an improvement. Admiral William Stentz, returned by David Strathairn, releases the oxygen destroyer for the giant monsters as Ghidorah almost attacks the monarch, playing until Godzilla fights Ghidorah once again and drops the missile, aka the oxygen destroyer. And what happens then? Ghidorah is alive, but Godzilla dies for now, and Ghidorah becomes King Ghidorah and awakens all the monsters in the world, as Emma doesn't know what she's done. Yeah, that's rich. Dr. Ling, also played by Z.E. Zhang, and Dr. Houston Brooks, remember him from Kong Skull Island, but this time he's played by Joe Morton, whom I just reviewed in Zack Snyder's Justice League as Cyborg's father, spots Mothra, and the image in that scene is beautiful. I mean, it's so gorgeous. When Mothra is behind the water and opens its wings, I love that image. If I had an image like that, I would put it on my wallpaper on my computer. It rains with brief sun rays, with Mothra arriving as it sells shows while it tells the monarch Godzilla is alive, and Serizawa goes in the world where Godzilla is resting, and he sacrifices himself while Godzilla is resurrected. And I do like that image, as it's good looking also. This movie has some fantastic shots, and the special effects are cool with the images, and I love how this movie looks, much more than the first film, MonsterVerse Godzilla movie, where it was all dark. But here, I can see the images perfectly, despite the acting is terrible in this movie. No matter what I think of this movie, I'm planning on keeping my 4K Blu-ray for the images, and I find this a guilty pleasure like any Godzilla movie, or Kong Skull Island for that matter. The monarch knows where to find King Ghidorah while Maddie runs off without her mother to Boston, and Emma gives Alan everything he needs to destroy Godzilla, and once again, as she gets out of their sight and leaves Alan, and Maddie takes the machine, that makes them the Alpha, as King Ghidorah finds it with Maddie at a baseball stadium, and she throws it away, and Godzilla uses its atomic breath on King Ghidorah, and Godzilla with the Monarch team fight King Ghidorah, and Mark and some soldiers get out of a helicopter and finds the Alpha machine with no Maddie. And as all hope seems lost, Mothra comes in the fight between Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, and Rodan comes in as Emma tells Mark and the soldiers to get in the truck. And as she and Mark argue, Ice Cube's son says, if I had parents like them, I'd run away from home too. And they realize where Maddie is going, which is the house they lived in, which is such a convenient thing that they figure it out from there. Mothra is also almost down until she kills Rodan. which is the best thing about this movie. The whole final battle is the best part of this movie. They find Maddie in the bathtub at their house, and Maddie sees mom and dad are back together, and King Ghidorah takes Godzilla to the skies and drops Godzilla to the ground to finish him off for a few minutes. As Mothra tries to fight King Ghidorah, but blows her down with its lightning bolt and almost kills Mothra, I should say, until the Alpha machine is turned on and attracts King Ghidorah's attention as Emma sacrifices herself while trying to distract it as King Ghidorah follows her and Godzilla approaches as he's on fire and ready to kick some ass and kills King Ghidorah and becomes the king of the monsters. And the ending worked out so well as it felt very action-packed. And I'm ready for Godzilla vs. Kong at this point. And the monster action is so much fun, unlike the human melodrama. The after credits scene is Alan buying one of the severed heads of King Ghidorah, and hopefully it sets up in Godzilla vs. Kong. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future nor in Godzilla vs. Kong. And I'm excited to see that movie for the monster action, but we'll see about the human stuff next time. But I'm very excited about it. It comes out tomorrow on HBO Max, so can't wait to see it. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 6.1 out of 10. This is an action-packed Godzilla movie that I hope next time will be bigger. The characters are very unlikable, particularly Vera Farmiga's character, as she was the worst in the whole movie. The monster action was very cool in this movie, as there were quite a few in this movie, as it's much more fun. It's much more of a fun time for me than the first MonsterVerse Godzilla movie. This movie is a guilty pleasure with some very big problems, sure, but I'm going to keep my 4K Blu-ray of this movie for the images, as they were drop-dead gorgeous, and I'm excited to see what happens in Godzilla vs. Kong as far as the monster action is concerned. And I'll do my best, because there's a theater near me that has an IMAX that I'm going to probably try to go see it in. I'll do my best to see if I can do it before the review of Godzilla vs. Kong. And I will be back next time. Thank you guys for joining me for this review. And I will be back next time with Godzilla vs. Kong. And until next time, let them fight.